Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back. Today's VOD review will be doing 100 Thieves versus OpTic Gaming. This is week 5 of the LCS Spring Split. And let's just get right into it. Dude, look at Crown over there. Look at him. Look at his jovial spirit. So happy he's getting to play Ryze. I love Crown. Crown's a nice player. But anyways, let's just get right into the draft. So talking about the draft here, there's nothing crazy going on in the draft based off of like bans. The York ban is cool. Targeted ban at Dhokla. Also, York's just a strong champion in general. But no real weird bans. Here's the thing about bans, because when I make these VOD reviews, I get a lot of people who like get really held up on the bans right now. And I see people get really held up on the bans right now. There's some champions that need to be banned, but the first round bans aren't really super important. I mean, they are, obviously, but bans right now are actually very team specific, which is what's really cool about the meta right now, is that bans are really team specific because there's a lot of different winning strategies in League of Legends right now that are viable. So playing 4-1, playing 1-3-1, playing mid-game team fight is all really viable and optimal way to play League of Legends. You can play just pure late game scaling. That's not an optimal way of playing League of Legends. It's a way you can play League of Legends in North America because a lot of people make a lot of mistakes. But that's actually not the optimal way to play League of Legends, to have 3 scaling lanes. Having scaling options is fine. But there's a lot of different optimal ways to play League of Legends. So the first ban phase isn't that crucial. It's set for banning against your own strategies or banning specifically against the enemy team. The second ban phase is the more important ban phase at the moment, in my opinion, because you're banning specifically against your enemy strategy that they've shown, or that you think they've shown, and you're also banning specifically on the strategy that you've shown based off of the picks that you already have, which is more important in the current meta right now. That's not always the case. Like when you go to Worlds meta, if you cast your mind back to Worlds meta, like, you know, you're needing to ban Akali, Urgot, Aatrox, Irelia. Like, those are champions that you have to ban, or if you're going to leave some open, there needs to be 2 open if you're going to be the red side team, because you need to grab one, right? It's either you leave them all open or you don't leave any of them, or like you leave multiple open or you don't leave one open, or you give away that super powerful pick to the blue side team. So please don't get held up on the bans too much. First round bans. These bans aren't that crazy. They seem fine. Cool. I've had a lot of people complain about that when I say that the bans are fine, or that I don't really talk about bans too much. It's because they're very team specific. Anyways, cool. So let's just talk about team compositions. Looking at them right here. I do want to talk a little bit about the drafting strategies. I don't mind either drafting strategy, by the way. Nocturne first pick is fine. We've been seeing a lot of prioritization on Nocturne first pick because it does provide that brain dead engage, as well as you can just purely build comps around the Nocturne, and that kind of pinches the enemy to try to like think about that. And the semi-global is really powerful. So Nocturne first pick on red side is pretty good. Drafting the Aatrox so early in the draft was a little interesting, but I'll tell you why they did that. So just looking purely at the OpTic team comp without looking at the 100 Thieves team comp, you think like, oh, okay, they have a lot of 1-3-1 options because they got the Aatrox, they got the Ryze, and then they have a really good 3-man group of Sivir, Tahm, Kench, and Nocturne that they can maneuver around the map, which is very true, right? So that's a really good 1-3-1 setup, but specifically in this matchup, nerfed Aatrox and not nerfed Urgot. This is not a very good matchup for the Aatrox, especially if we turn the nameplates on and we see Dhokla versus Ssumday. I don't imagine the Aatrox ever winning in the side lane right now. So rather than picking like a pure like lane dominant champion into the Urgot so that we can get a really good side lane or a really good 1-3-1 setup, they pick a champion that can succeed in a 1-3-1 if they can get their Aatrox ahead. If somehow the Aatrox does get ahead, which can happen with jungle assistance, or just, you know, kind of a lucky game or whatever, or just, you know, has a good game, So has the options of a 1-3-1, but if the side lane doesn't work out, Aatrox is great in the team fight. So that pick made sense to prioritize early. I would have maybe just liked to see the Tahm Kench pick there instead of the Aatrox, because they could have went Ezreal Tahm Kench, which is also a really good combo. So when I was watching this live, this is one of the only games I got to watch live this weekend. When I was watching this live, I was thinking, I would have picked Tahm Kench there rather than Aatrox, but picking Aatrox first rotation was fine because they wanted to save the counter pick for Crown is what they really wanted. I thought maybe they should have picked Sivir in their first rotation as well. Like I was thinking when I watched this, I was thinking they should have picked Nocturne Tahm Kench and then pick Sivir right here, because Sivir is the common answer to Ezreal, but they wanted to ban out mid lane champions instead. So I would have probably, if I was doing the draft, just saying, if I was doing the draft, I would have taken Nocturne Tahm Kench here, and then I would have taken Sivir with my with the last pick here. But it didn't get it banned out because Sivir is a common answer to Ezreal, and I'll explain that in a minute. Cool. We'll talk about 100 Thieves in a second. And then the Sivir, like I just talked about, Sivir is a really common answer to Ezreal. She does a lot of the same things. I know that sounds really weird, but she actually does a lot of the same things that makes Ezreal powerful. Obviously, she doesn't have the 1-item power spike and the 2-item power spike that Ezreal does. But what she does do is gets mid lane priority really well. So she gets mid lane priority super well, and so what that means really is after laning phase is over, she can go mid lane and she can insta clear the wave, which is something that Ezreal can do. I know you don't really think like that's what Ezreal does, but Ezreal just shoots his spells at mid lane and he's super safe by himself. Where the way that Sivir is pretty safe by herself is that she kills the wave instantly, so she's really safe to just get mid lane priority. And the combo with Tahm Kench is Tahm Kench just hangs out with her, and if there's a fight around the map, he just gobbles her up and then takes her to the fight, which is a really powerful combo. So that's why she's seen as an answer to Ezreal, as well as she does really well in the laning phase as well. So the Sivir pick is really good, and so it does a lot of the same things Ezreal wants to do in the mid game, and kind of answers the things that Ezreal wants to do in the mid. Because mid game, Ezreal wants to kill the minions mid, poke people down, hit the tower, do all that good stuff, and Sivir's really good at answering that. And especially comboed with the Tahm Kench, can actually maneuver around and get to fights really easily, because she gets that mid prio and then instantly moves the fight. So that's why Sivir pick's really good here. Cool. And the other thing I want to talk about here is the last pick, Ryze. So they saved counter pick for Crown, which I think is a pretty good drafting strategy for OpTic, because that's a really strong point of their map. So counter pick for Ryze. So not necessarily a counter pick into this lane, but what Ryze can do is, you know, when you pick Lissandra, you get free lane priority. I mean, that's what she is. But what's cool about Ryze is you can actually answer that after your first back. So after your first back and you get your tier buy, you can actually answer lane priority and trade pretty effectively into that lane, because you get a little slightly outranged early in the lane, but as soon as you get your tier buy, you actually neutralize that laning phase. So it's actually a neutralizing lane phase and gives you that split push option later in the game, and you like pure outscales. So actually decent in the laning, actually neutralizes the laning phase as soon as first back, and also outscales and maneuvers around the map. So it makes a lot of sense there. Cool. All right, so let's talk about what the drafts actually do. I just wanted to talk about that was drafting strategy. That wasn't actual win conditions. I just wanted to talk about, I think OpTic's, I just wanted to talk about drafting strategy from OpTic's point of view on why they picked their picks here. But 100 Thieves also had a really good draft. 100 Thieves also got what they wanted to, so I'm not shortchanging 100 Thieves here. Both teams got what they wanted, so that's what makes this a good game, because neither team got shortchanged in the draft. And so we're going to actually go through both teams and talk about win conditions and talk about what they can do with this game. So looking at 100 Thieves, they obviously got the Urgot. So they got honestly probably the best champion on this patch. So they got the Urgot, they got the Ezreal Braum bottom lane, Lissandra free lane priority mid, and then the super aggressive, powerful early game jungler and Olaf. So what this team comp can actually do, just talking about matchups. So it's a winning matchup topside, so you can get lane priority topside if you want it, and you have kill threats. And this is also on blue side. You're also on blue side, so the Olaf has wraparound potential. So you don't necessarily have to push this Aatrox in, but you can get chip damage, poke him down, and then the Olaf can get wraparound and kill him. So this is where Olaf can do a lot of damage early in the game. So like level 1 through 6 is where Olaf can do a lot of stuff. So can be looking for Onda to make some plays around there, manage his pathing to get topside for a kill. Cool. Looking at the mid lane matchup, as I said, mid lane will have prio really early in the laning phase, but it is neutralized around Ryze. It's tier buy, so that'll be neutralized. The bottom lane matchup is the one that's kind of interesting because it does a little bit depend on the Sivir player on how she's actually utilizing her spell shields. So if she's utilizing her spell shields pretty well, you can actually match the lane priority and actually get the push. So this lane will depend a lot on the Sivir player and jungle pressure, but this is mainly a non-kill threat lane just based on the matchups. Ezreal, Braum versus Sivir, Tahm, Kench. This should not be much of a kill threat lane. This is very much like a handshake lane. Does depend a little bit on the Sivir player on how she's utilizing her spell shield and she's effectively getting her mana back. But then when Ezreal has much better item buy timing, so as soon as he gets both of his mana items, he does have a lot better fight back potential, even if the Sivir player is playing pretty well. So can depend a lot on jungle pressure, but this is mostly not really a kill lane, so shouldn't expect a lot of action by itself. But the Sivir can get the push, he's playing it really well, or the Ezreal can get the push if the Sivir's not really playing the laning phase that well. Cool. And as far as neutral control, I'll say it again, it does depend a lot on the bottom lane on whether which jungler can get control of the bot side neutrals, because both are very proficient at clearing out the dragon, and mid lane will be neutralized by the time people want to do the dragon. So it will depend a lot on who has bot lane priority and who has ability to rotate over, and how those early game skirmishes are going around the bot side will depend on who gets neutral control around that side. So cool. So let's actually talk about win conditions for each team. So 100 Thieves have a really powerful mid-game team comp. So all of these champions, every single one of these champions comes online at 1 item and 2 items. Those are their biggest item breakpoints. And then Ezreal obviously has infinite scaling as well. So could be looking for some really explosive fights in the mid game. Also have really good neutral control with the Ezreal, really good neutral control with the Ezreal, Lissandra, and Urgot. Like, what I mean by that is the neutral control is he's actually able to poke people down, and then they can look for picks with the Lissandra, Braum, and Urgot. So actually pretty good neutral control with this comp. So can look for a lot of explosive fights into the mid game. So if this team comp gets ahead, they actually snowball really well. So this is like a snowball mid game team fight comp. So this team can be if this team gets ahead, they end the game at, they should end the game at 30 minutes type of team. So if this team can get ahead in the laning phase, or just get out of the laning phase, transition their Ezreal to mid, look for a big fight, this team's item breakpoints are right at that 1 item, so they should be much powerful in the mid game fight. If they come out at an even game state, or even at a slight disadvantage, they might come into the fight a lot better item breakpoints. So look for those mid-game fights, snowball from there, take the game away. Cool. Looking over at OpTic over here. So OpTic have a bunch of different options with their comp. I really like OpTic's comp. I like both comps, by the way. So they have a losing top side. As I already talked about the bot lane matchup, he's kind of tenuous. And then the mid lane matchup is losing in terms of priority early, and then neutralized, and then will be in Ryze's favor later. So they actually have 1-3-1 options as well as a 4-1 option. I'm gonna probably look for the 4-1 option because it's unlikely the Aatrox will get ahead. But something else this team comp can do as well is that they, as I said, what the 100 Thieves comp can do is they can force fights really well, and they can force fights really well, and they're really explosive. But what OpTic's team comp is really good at doing is they're deceptively really good at not fighting and looking for picks. So they're actually really deceptively good at not fighting. What I mean by that is Sivir can instantly clear the wave and just get away from you. Tahm, Kench can gobble her up. Aatrox is unkillable. Nocturne's hanging out in the jungle. and Ryze gets out of sticky situations really easily. So, and they kind of just want to take you around the map. So what's cool about the OpTic versus 100 Thieves in this game, they have really contrasting styles, because OpTic's team comp wants to just take you around the map, and 100 Thieves team comp really wants to just get you in one spot and engage on you. So it'll be really important to see which team actually prevails in that, because if 100 Thieves can just collapse on the members that are collapse on a couple members and they just win through explosivity, it doesn't matter if OpTic's trying to take you around the map if 100 Thieves is just pouncing on a couple members. So it'll be cool to see. But OpTic have a bunch of really unique options, because they have semi-global, they have a semi-global, semi-global, semi-global. They have 3 semi-globals, and then Sivir with the speed up, and she can jump inside of another person's semi-global. So really interesting team comp over here. So what they're looking to do with this team comp is kind of just get out of the laning phase and then set up for their 1-3-1, set up for their 4-1, and just kind of scale up to that 3 item mark. And once they get to those 3 item marks, if they can just keep taking 100 Thieves around the map, and look for picks, look for picks and look for advantages in the side lanes, then OpTic can have like a really scary game. But definitely a little bit harder to execute, but definitely more fun team comp, honestly. Cool. But decent team fight as well. It's not like they can't team fight. I mean, Sivir can team fight, Aatrox can team fight, Ryze can team fight. So they have some team fight. They fight really well in the jungle, especially Ryze throwing stuff around Sivir, throwing boomerangs through tight corridors. So they fight really well in the jungle. But in a really open fight, you would really have to favor 100 Thieves comp. Cool. All right, let's finally get into the game. I just talked so much. This was a fun game to talk about draft. I love talking about draft. I just recently did the TSM COG game, and that game was a snoozer in terms of like talking about it. That game was just a domination. But this game was one of the only games I got to watch live this weekend. Just pretty busy. 17, talking about the range. I have more range. We have more range than the enemy team, so we will win. That was this famous interview from last year when everybody was playing melee AD carries. When they were playing bruisers, and they were the only people playing range champions, and they won. And he was like, "We have more range, so we will win." I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I thought it was funny. Okay, Meteos starting topside. He might do like a full clear. That's a lot what Nocturnes do. I think both junglers will probably do a full clear and path towards bottom. That's what I would assume both junglers would do. Honestly, both junglers want to full clear on their first clear. So both junglers kind of want to full clear. And also, in terms of a lane they can impact early into the game and is a little bit tenuous, is probably bot lane. Is like the most neutral lane that involves jungle assistant is bot lane and top lane. So this works out for both junglers, honestly. And this will actually mean that when they back, they both should be pathing towards top side as well, if they both want to be like XP efficient, which is the other side of the map that can be directly affected really easily. So so this makes a lot of sense. So they're pathing towards bottom so that they can so they might have to impact the bottom matchup, but also, or if they just go for the reset, they're both looking to impact the top matchup, which is the matchup that is also very tenuous. The mid lane matchup is the one that's kind of like whatever. We see both junglers pathing towards top. We see the Olaf going for the wraparound. Ooh, yeah, they barely don't walk past each other. See, that's, yeah. This is a standard Olaf gank. If you're on blue side, you just wrap around top and kill him. It's like Meteos had a heads up to that. Like he was thinking Olaf would do that because that's like what Olaf should do. So he walked into that bush. Did he place that ward in the river? Wait. Aatrox did. Oh, okay. So that's really good pathing by Olaf. Or not really, because look, if I was the Olaf player, right? like normally you would just walk through the river, but if I was a professional player, like obviously pro players are going to ward the river, so I would walk all the way around. So as a professional player, I would ward the tri-brush for this gank. That's kind of weird because he's warding this bush to ward off Olaf from walking in from behind, which is what like a solo queue player would do. But in a professional match, I feel like I would always wrap around because the river would be warded. But maybe he's next level thinking and thinking that I'm going to ward the river because he's going to think that I'm going to ward behind me. Hmm. Hmm. I think he should have just warded the tri-brush. Hmm. Man, can you imagine if Meteos would have just been there for one more second? Feels bad, man. That's unfortunate. They had like the right idea though. That's just unfortunate. Because that's definitely what Olaf wants to do. Hmm. I feel like you just ward the tri-brush. Either way, Olaf's going to walk through the tri-brush. But maybe he's thinking if the tri-brush is warded, it's too late. Maybe so. Hmm. Interesting. I mean, he's just hanging around here because he's waiting for his camp. He doesn't have much to do, so he's waiting for his camp spawn. Oh, he gets a little bit of XP too. Tries to cancel back, misses. Okay, you already did Raptors. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Both junglers are just trying to get level 6 now. And look for a gank, or look for a lane impact. It's a good pink ward on the dragon. Olaf's like to sneak those. Ooh. Onda going in. When did he get that pink on there? Is that Huhi got the pink on there? This is a smart invade. So he can go for this invade right now. His mid lane's in a neutral spot, and his top laner is way stronger than the enemy top laner. So that invade is so good. So Olaf can just look. Actually, Olaf can just look to split the top side right now, and just keep getting the Urgot ahead. In the meantime, if he wants to. On the flip side, they have no control over bot river right now, so that is a negative point for them. So they are going to lose out on the first mountain, which is meaningful, but losing out on the first mountain only matters a lot if you're going to be losing the game. It does give your enemy a little bit of Baron threat. Okay, cool. They actually rotate down. So nice. Good play. Good play. All right, solid play. So hopefully they can wrangle vision control over this bot river. But yeah, so Onda has a couple options. He can just try to wrangle vision control over bot river to stave off the dragon, or he can just try to set up Ssumday for more success and just try to transition that lead to other lanes. So he has a couple options right now. What's hard for him about this bot river control though is that the Sivir lane is actually winning. So the Sivir lane is actually winning, so probably a better use of his time just to play around topside. So they're just going to trade sides of the map basically. So they're just going to trade Rift Herald for Dragon, which is a smarter play right here. Because had he have just gone bottom to try to contest for that, he's not going to be able to have priority to be able to have his bot lane help, especially with Tahm Kench rotating over. So yeah, the amount of control that Tahm Kench and Ryze has over River is insane. So you're never gonna have that. I didn't even think about that when I was talking about this earlier. I should have talked a little bit about that more, or even thought about the amount of river control or like a Ryze and Tahm Kench gives. Oh man, I'm a little bit rusty, guys. Sorry. Been really busy this week. I normally I'll just tell you I normally watch probably 30 games of League of Legends every week, like 30 matches of League of Legends every week. I watch them live and then I and then I rewatch at least 15 of them to review them. So, um but this week I didn't watch hardly anything this week, so this is like my second time watching. A little bit rusty today. Wait, did I miss something? Oh yeah, they summon Rooftop. Okay. Yeah, they summon Rooftop and get the plates. Okay, so now their Urgot is so far ahead. Um, so now they just want to play around their Urgot. Their Urgot is so powerful. He's at his one item break too. This play was hilarious. He just runs around the map. This play was great. This play was so funny. Not really much to talk about here. He just solo kills the jungler and goes in. They have full. The way they're able to do that, by the way, is having these pinks inside of this jungle. They have so much control over this top side, and the reason why they have that is because OpTic exchanged vision for bottom side. So they split sides of the map. So Meteos actually didn't own this side of the map, and so he actually couldn't walk up here because he didn't own this side of the map. This was funny. No crown, no. Yeah, the reason he went for that is because he was going to get a big shutdown. And he actually almost got it, but you got to check if they have. You got to check if they have stopwatch. Okay, so now you look at this game and you see 100 Thieves are actually in a really good spot. They're actually in a really, really, really good spot. And so let's see where they take this from here. They're actually at mid lane prio. Oh, they almost get a kill bottom. Ooh, good TP by Dhokla. Dhokla's going to get a kill off that. Really scrappy fight right here. But honestly, went out by 100 Thieves, went out on that fight. Get a TP and a flash. Urgot's getting pressure in the top side. Let's just replay this play. Okay, so the problem that okay. Oh yeah, it shows a replay here. Okay. Okay. I don't know what happened there. It's gonna show the replay. This game is turning into a huge fiesta. I'm gonna try to explain what's happening in a second once it'll stop being a fiesta. So I can explain where this goes wrong for 100 Thieves. Oh, yeah, he just had no business going for that play. Yeah, that was just. Yeah, they just had. That was just bad. Yeah, you gotta know who you're playing against. Yeah. Uh. Yeah, you just can't do that. You can't go for a kill in the enemy's jungle when you don't have vision of an enemy Tahm, Kench, Nocturne. Like, come on, bro. Um, yeah, can't do that. And like, if you get that kill, that would have been pretty good, right? That was like a really high risk, high reward type of play. Um, but the chances of that being successful was like 10% because the like the amount of damage you have to do to burst a Ryze is a lot, and you're gonna have to hit all of your abilities and have ignite. He didn't. I don't. He didn't have ignite. I don't believe. To actually burst him, and that's before they can jump on you. So the amount of that being successful is like 10%. I mean, you can win the 1v1, but killing them before you get collapsed on is really low percentage chance. Okay, so the issue that 100 Thieves are going to run into is that the map is really open right now, and OpTic really likes the map open. And that map they really like the map open, and 100 Thieves wants to play around objectives and push their advantage. So what's really good is they they put their strong side, so their Urgot, they're going to put their strong side champion on the side of the map in which they want, on the side of the map of the objective that they want. So the next objective is going to be an Infernal Drake, as well as he can get these towers. So they're going to have him on this side, and they're going to try to get some forward vision and some neutral vision for him, so he can push at advantage in the bottom side, which is good. This is good right now. But the problem they're going to run into is, the problem their team comp is going to run into right now is that really the only strong member on their team, comparatively to the enemy team, is the Urgot, and and fighting away from the Urgot, they're at a big disadvantage. And OpTic are going to try to string them around the map. OpTic's comp is built to string them around the map. They're going to have a lot of trouble answering what OpTic is trying to do. But they can just play around Ssumday, and OpTic will have a lot hard time answering what they're trying to do. So, yeah. Ryze gets an advantage in the top side, though. Ryze is just going to keep getting stronger in the side lane. Feels good for him. OpTic has some really creative plays in this game. Really hyphy stuff. Yeah. So Under Thieves really want to look for a fight really soon. But they really want this Infernal, and that's fine. Because they're kind of they're at a point in the game where they're much stronger in terms of what their champions do than the enemy champions in the team fight scenario. So they really do want to fight soon. But waiting for this Infernal is fine. So just getting prio around the side of the map that you want to get the objective is fine, because this objective is super high value. It's actually fine. So it does look like the game's really slowing down here, but mainly they're just prioritizing getting this Infernal with their powerful champion. That is fine. But what you'd really like to see, what you really like to see from 100 Thieves right now, this is really interesting. Oh yeah, this is the really Fiesta fight. But if this didn't get super Fiesta right now, because this got really Fiesta, if this didn't get really Fiesta right now, what would have been cool for 100 Thieves to do is when they were pushing, if they've had their Urgot pushing up right here, and the 3-man unit on 100 Thieves pushed into the enemy jungle and tried to clear out these pinks and get a flank ward for the Lissandra, so when they do this Infernal Drake, they have a really good fight set up. That would have been really cool for the fight, because her TP is coming up, like coinciding with the Infernal Drake spawning. That would have been really cool, but they end up trading right here. So the reason why they do this is because they have a Mountain Drake, which is actually doable. So that's why this happens right there. And if Meteos spell shielded that ultimate, then it may have been a different story. But he keeps getting hit by that. This is bang. In this fight, like 100 Thieves, this fight goes so well for them, and then they just give away the game. Okay. Go to base. Alright, so look at what's happened right now. Alright, so they killed the jungler. They got the Baron. And Ssumday's firing his ult in the nowhere. Honestly, if Ssumday fires his ult into big and they kill him and he flashes into them, they might just wipe right here. So at this moment, the fight isn't lost. But at this moment, the fight is lost. At this moment, you are not wiping them. Like so that was a bad mistake for Ssumday to fire his ult there, but then you can't go forward. Look at Huhi's mana. Huhi has no mana, and Bang is super far back right now. So Bang's going to have to use his abilities to get into the fight, and he dies in one combo from the Ryze, or an auto pizza in one ability, right? is what Bang will die from in this fight. And Ssumday doesn't have a kill threat anymore. Also, Big has exhaust. So, I mean, they don't necessarily know that Big has exhaust. But just looking at this fight right now, somebody needs to call this off because, sure, if you wipe them right here, which, by the way, you don't have any chance of wiping them right here because we wasted the Ssumday ults and Huhi doesn't have any mana. If you wipe them right here, yeah, you probably end the game. Or not in the game, but get huge advantages. And look at Meteos is respawning. He has his ults up. But if you don't wipe right here, if you just back off, push mid, Huhi recalls TPs to the dragon, you take dragon, you literally get all 3 of these towers off of this Baron and maybe get an inhibitor tower, right? You get like 5,000 gold in your pocket and you probably just win the game off of that. Like the game is over for like 100 Thieves win the game right now if they just back off. They win the game if they back off right now. I like how they said on the Analyst list, it was pretty funny because they were like, Ssumday goes for the no-look Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant 3-point shot rather than just shooting it into the Tahm Kench. But look, this isn't where you want to fight this team comp because you just throw pizzas, Ryze just shoots his abilities everywhere. And then here comes Meteos. And then Huhi TP'd back in. So everybody, I'm sure if you watch this live, they're like, what was Huhi doing? He had no mana. So somebody should have been calling that off. Yeah, so that should have been called off. For sure. That should have been communicated from everybody. Like, Huhi should be communicating that he has no mana and he can't come in there. And maybe he did, but maybe he did and everybody was just hyphy and was going forward, but there should have been a decision made to like, what do we get from this play and what are their chances of success? It should have been evaluated in everybody's mind, or everybody should just know the context of the game and in the moment, because that's why you're a professional player, and make the correct decision, because that was the wrong decision. And if you want to be a good team, you got to not make decisions like this. You don't have any damage. You have no damage. There's a Nocturne coming from base. But they're still they still have the advantage right here, right? So they still got the Baron. So look at the gold swing and there. The gold swing was nothing. It's in neutral right now, and they still have Baron mid. So they're still in an advantageous position, and their champions are stronger at this point. The Ryze hasn't fully scaled up yet, but the Ryze is in the side lane being a Bobby big boy. He's building for that death cap. What Under Thieves are doing right now is fine. They're looking for a death brush right there, it looked like. But what was 100 Thieves like firmly having the game in their grasp, now the game is kind of like in a weird situation because now they're in a negative Baron power play, right? Because the Ryze split push on his own, and they're getting outscaled. So the Ezreal scales pretty decently, but Ryze is about to have a death cap and is just solo winning the game in the side lane right now. So they 100 Thieves still have those. They can look for those big engages, but the map is so open right now. The OpTic comp really comes online with all the creativity and plays that their team can actually make. What I really don't like about what or never mind. I was gonna say something, but it's incorrect. Yeah, see, look how easy it is for them to answer a side wave. Like Ryze can just crush the side wave, and if he gets collapsed on, it's so easy for him to answer. So this is like where OpTic comp truly comes online. And they can just play around the cooldown. So their cooldowns are down, so they reset. They actually have full vision control of Baron right now because the Ryze is just staying on the strong side, or he's staying on the top side because that's the side they actually care about. Ocean Drake doesn't matter at all. Ocean Drake actually doesn't matter in this game at all because OpTic is just split pushing. OpTic is just bringing him around. So Ocean Drake doesn't matter at all in this game. It matters maybe a little bit to OpTic, like if they had it and like they're worried about the Ezreal poke, but I really don't think it matters at all. So that's why OpTic didn't prioritize at all getting vision around there. They just got vision around Baron and kept Ryze top. And so all the globals for OpTic are now back up, so the Ryze is free to sit over here. Okay, this play was awesome. Okay, so look what Crown did. Okay, this play was really unique. This wasn't appreciated on the broadcast. They appreciated everything that happened, but look what he did. He placed this ward outside of the brush so that Huhi would come up and clear it. So that when he would see it, he'd come and clear it. This was so hyphy. And then they don't know, or they pinged it out, but Tahm, Kench, and Nocturne are right here. So they're actually like just outside of ult range right now. But you bait her into clearing the ward by putting it right outside of the bush. Some next level plays. And look how fast they are to get in there. This is all 5 on the Lissandra. All 5 on the Lissandra right now. And then the Ezreal TP'd behind. But like normally this Ezreal TP'ing behind right here would be fine. Like because Ezreal's so maneuverable and his team is super nearby, so they're able to collapse. But with OpTic's team comp, with having all these globals, they get there so fast. And only one person is TPing. They're just using ultimates to get there. It's pretty insane, actually. This is Bang. I actually really like Bang as a player, but I'm memeing him a little bit. But yep, and they just move on to the Baron because they have a mana advantage, and they have a Mountain and a Ryze who just destroys Baron. So that Baron setup was good. Okay, now you just let the Ryze win you the game, honestly. Like, their ability to just peel back away from 100 Thieves, their ability to just peel back away from 100 Thieves and OpTic's ability to collapse on the side lane is so good that you literally just put Ryze in whatever lane you want to dominate, and you put the rest of the team in mid or around that lane. You just force pressure that way. The only thing is that Dhokla doesn't have TP anymore, so that's just something to think about. Setting up a death rush, but nah, run away. Yeah, so they're actually going to set up for the 1-3-1, and then Nocturne's just going to float around the lanes with the Tahm Kench. So they'll try to get this mid tower, and Ryze will pressure down bottom so they can hopefully get the mid tower, and then they'll probably just peel back and grab the ocean if it's applicable. Okay. Ocean really doesn't mean anything in this game. They just kind of want the Elder to spawn. Nice. Power of the 1-3-1. Power of collapse. That was actually a good flash, or a good play by Huhi. Like to get out of the Nocturne ult, but they were just Nocturne ulting just to get the turret because the cooldown will be up next time. Next time it's ready. They actually get the 2 towers. Not getting an inhibitor right here is fine. The Ryze can just look to pressure again. So he's gonna pressure on bottom, I would assume. Try to get that inhibitor if he can. For Baron to be up. But they may not actually have time for that if they're getting this dragon. Hey, so they waited for 35 minutes, so it'll spawn the Elder. Okay, so the Ryze will go bottom, see if he can't get the inhibitor. And what's such a tough spot for 100 Thieves right now is they just have to look like this is smart. Like they have to look for an engage, but Arrow can just ult them away, and then they just use darkness to peel away. It's actually so easy. Oh my, that was hyphy. Ulting the minions in was a little much, I think. They get Crown's flash and cleanse off of that. I think that was a little hyphy. But once this map is opened up, and you give an OpTic like a piece back into the game, it's so hard to get back in if OpTic keeps playing the game pretty cleanly, you know? If they keep bringing you around the map. 100 Thieves had a bunch of opportunities in this game, and they just really threw it in that Baron fight. They just had the keys to end the game, and they just got too hungry. Oh, this is where it gets. This is where OpTic makes their mistake. That was really bad. Dhokla dying there. He got a Nexus tower, which I don't think it means very much. So I think that was bad. I think if anything, he should have just been pushing up mid, and then they rotate down onto Baron. So that was just a really bad play by OpTic. So just a bad like map setup because kind of no reason for Dhokla to be bottom there. I don't know what their map setup was before that, but probably should have just had Dhokla if they wanted to have him in the vulnerable spot because he can draw attention since he had 2 lives. Maybe just have him push up mid because bot is already pushing. And he doesn't provide much Baron damage. He provides like the least Baron damage of the damage champion. So then they just take Baron. Like what I'm saying is he just pushes up mid and like pressures up mid, so it makes 100 Thieves want to collapse on him because they're in this quadrant. They're in the top quadrant over here. So it wants them to collapse on him, and he can stall it a lot of time, while OpTic can just insta take the Baron. So it makes puts 100 Thieves in a tough spot, rather than what actually happened is he's just in their base dying 1v1 to Urgot because he's in the base hitting the Nexus tower for kind of no reason. And this is where the game gets crazy. Okay. This part is nutty by OpTic. This was actually like what you do. This was like next level call. I was really proud of OpTic when I saw this. Because what's the point of them contesting it? Because what you think is like they just come in and try to contest right there, but Ryze already has the push, and 100 Thieves doesn't really have anybody to answer the push. But the correct call for 100 Thieves would have been to have one of their solo laners answering the Ryze back here because they have the double TP. So probably Lissandra because she can get away from the collapse. But what they might be worried about is the full collapse onto the sideliner and they end the game through there. But on the flip side of things is if that actually happens while this is happening, like the stall out that Huhi can give, like he can jump away, he can root, he can self ults, he can Zanyas. The amount of stall out, like they'll get the dragon and then they'll reset, and OpTic for sure can't end the game because they'll have Baron and Elder. So this was just hyphy. This was so cool. And they just jump in, they canceled them from backing. Lissandra TP's in. Yeah, they just needed to have Huhi answering the side wave earlier. So actually pushing this up earlier. So this couldn't happen. This is just a product of what their team comp can do. So this was really impressive by OpTic, actually. And I don't blame 100 Thieves. I honestly don't blame 100 Thieves that much for the failure on this part of the game, because like this was really unique to play against this. So you probably don't get a lot of practice against like 4 global comps. I mean, obviously you should be aware of it, but this is probably not what you get your most practice on. And so they shouldn't receive a lot of criticism for that play because the game was definitely out of their hands at that point. They were somewhat coming back. Oh, Huhi sad. Oh, it's somewhat. Let me go back to the happy people. Look at Arrow. No, no. The game was somewhat in a tenable position for them again when they lost the game. Oh no. All right, I'll just leave it on Arrow being happy. But where they should receive a lot of criticism is where they is that Baron fight that they just gave the enemy team the game. But I don't blame them a lot for how the rest of the game went, because once the map is so open, it's kind of hard to close the game out at that point without Baron. But that last call at the end of the game definitely should have had somebody answering the side wave earlier. What they were worried about is Lissandra just getting crushed or getting collapsed on, which maybe the same outcome would have happened. So tough to say, but I think that was the wrong call. I think they should have had her answering the side wave a little bit earlier. But at the same time, that game was in such a hard spot versus that comp. Once you got that late into the game, once the map was that open, you were in a really tough spot. So I don't blame them for the end of the game, but definitely deserves a lot of criticism for how they played the mid game. Like Urgot throwing his lead by trying to get that kill on the Ryze made no sense. Inability to push their advantage around the Urgot a little bit better. They could have done that a little bit better. Set up for some TP flanks around objectives. Could maybe have been some options they looked to force some fights, because forcing fights was really important in that game. Although the fight that they tried to force, they didn't have cooldowns. They didn't have their cooldowns or the appropriate champions to be able to execute on that fight or use their cooldowns correctly. So that was the fight that they lost the game. But you peel back off that fight, you basically win the game. So just some really critical errors in this game. But yeah, just some really critical errors in this game. Definitely just doesn't seem like everybody's on the same page. Like when you see that play where Huhi has no mana and Ssumday's ulting into nowhere to try to get the Kobe, try to get the Kobe. Like the play should have been instantly called off there. And so that's like a team thing, a team mind thing. Like when people talk about shot callers, the age of shot calling is kind of dead. Where like there's a person who controls the game. Like if that's how your team is ran, good luck. Good luck in esports, brother. Um, the way really successful teams are ran nowadays is all of the players understand the game on a really high level, and they understand the game the same way, so they can make really intelligent decisions. Go watch Cloud9. Go watch Griffin. That's what Griffin does. That's what Griffin's mentality is, and that's a lot what Cloud9's mentality is now. You can tell by the way they play. It's all about we obviously when you're a professional player you have a high level of game knowledge, but it's important that you have a high level of game knowledge together, right? So that everybody makes the same decision. And what a shot caller is really nowadays, just the guy who speaks up. Like when they talk about Zazel's a shot caller for the team, it's just because he's like saying squirrel, you know, he's just saying shit, you know. He's like saying, oh, Alistair, we're going in on Alistair. He's just saying words. Like that's what, you know, people call Smoothie a shot caller, but he's not a shot caller in the sense of like he's like, all right guys, the game plan is do this and do that. He's more of like, I have my cooldowns. Go in on Alistair. Alistair is right here. Okay, Alistair is dead. Move to this guy. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, everybody's thinking the same thing. Somebody needs to say it sometimes. But if you're all thinking the same thing, sometimes you don't even need to say it. So getting on that level, and it seems like 100 Thieves isn't on that level of like thinking about the game the same way, because like just looking at that, as soon as you saw that Urgot ult come out, and if somebody communicated that Huhi didn't have mana, like that fight was over. So definitely concerning. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I don't want this one to be an hour long, but this was a lot to talk about, and this was the Fiesta. But thank you so much for watching. I find this stop recording. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.